Guys, welcome back. What started out as a simple-ish restoration of this Porsche 911 Turbo has went fully off the rails and turned into an absolute dream build. We did a full color change to Porsche Viola Metallic. We did way too much OEM GT2 carbon fiber, and we even cut the roof off this poor 997, but there's still one gaping hole in the build. A literal gaping hole. But that's okay, because today we're headed back to AIM Performance in the great state of New Jersey. I can't do it, let's just go. We're back at the legendary AIM Performance. I'm not gonna waste any more time. We're not doing any talking outside this time. That's what we're after right there. Brian, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
It looks like you've been busy though. Look at this thing, wow.
Dressed up.
So when you tore this down originally, everyone said they really enjoyed hearing from a professional instead of idiots like Austin and I. So if you would, give us the rundown here.
So this is our built motor package. It's got our rods in it, stock pistons, ring gap to our spec, ported heads, cams, and then our turbo kit with our waterline system and stuff on it.
And what turbos are these? I know we had basically discussed power goals. I knew I was going Garrett with it, but I didn't actually decide what turbo it was. I just told Joe to just pick one for me, gave him the power goals, hopefully he picked a good one.
We picked a G30 770s. That's a hot setup right there.
Perfect street turbo? Perfect
street turbo, great manners. It's just got, you know, it doesn't come on like a light switch where the car wants to break tires. It comes on very nice. Huge power curve, tons of torque, just a perfect setup, the way it should have been from the factory.
Definitely a little bit smaller than the turbos we're used to. Good news is there are two of them, so I think we'll make enough power to be just fine. And speaking of power, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What are we making on the dyno when it finally makes it here?
I don't see no reason why I can't make 1,000.
1,000 at the tire. How can you argue with that? I know when I originally bought this car, I said I don't want 1,000 horsepower problems, but from what I understand, from what I've been told from AIM and from you guys, you can make 1,000 horsepower in these cars when it's well done, and it's not gonna be unreliable. It's gonna be a good, drivable 1,000 horsepower, as weird as that is to say. One thing I noticed right off the hit, we got some filters on the end of the turbos now, no more intakes.
No more intakes, because if you try to run those up pipes, or whatever you call it, inlet pipes from those manufacturers, at these big turbos, they'll start to actually collapse in. It won't be able to breathe through there. So it's like you trying to suck through a straw and it just won't breathe. Got
our wastegates down there, got those beautiful manifolds that I'm sure I'll get a better look at once we actually put it in the car. Nice clutch setup, and refresh my memory. Which clutch setup is this? I think it's Protomotive. It's a kind of mishmatch of aftermarket parts, OEM parts.
Yes, it's a Proto clutch with their center and like their disc with like a GT3 flywheel. I forgot exactly the order, but it's like a bunch of mismatch, some OEM, some aftermarket.
I hear it works, right? It works, it holds power.
Yeah.
One other thing I noticed here, this might have been a source of pain for us in the past, but no longer. Both our oil coolers there, brand new, shiny. If that's where that intermix was coming from, we no longer have to worry about that. So in this build, I pretty much gave them my goals and gave them free reign to do what they please, give me their usual recipe that's obviously very proven. One thing I did not expect to see, however, this guy right here. HKS, I thought this was like Supra stuff, this is JDM stuff.
Oh man, they make a really good boost controller.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna feel like it's 1995 again with the HKS boost controller. The only difference is, this one, it's not that big ugly box that you remember. This actually looks pretty good. Being that this giant mess is now fully assembled, it's really hard to see, but we have those beautiful Sharkworks fittings in there. And one of the best things about this whole turbo kit setup, look at these coolant lines, the oil lines, everything. This is one thing that when I'm doing builds, I absolutely hate doing, so to show up and have a line kit just already made, not have to worry about that, A+. This box here, I see it still laying around, ID 1700s. As cool as this thing looks from the outside, it's even more impressive on the inside. You said there's some headwork done as well. We did ported heads, we did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, the ported heads, the cam combo is like, well, cams combo. I'm thinking
there you go.
I'm thinking LS
now we're talking.
Cams combo, it's just really wakes up the motor. You don't have to really lean on the motor with boost to make the power. We got the, you know, our head gasket package, or our head bolt package that clamps everything together. So obviously that one cylinder had some sort of mixing going on. We could avoid all that now.
Look who just walked in. Check that thing out.
There you go. There you go.
Not blue anymore.
Not blue. There's still some blue on the inside, so this is exactly what just happened here. Aftermarket crank pulley, stock crank pulley. The stock one, when you're getting into the higher RPM, the higher power levels, supposedly they can kick off. That's not something I wanted to experience. This guy here, that's the fix for that. Joe pulled it out, said it was $200 some. I figure why not just throw it on, just protect ourselves. There was only one problem. It was blue. With the color of this car, being that nothing else is blue on it, I could not have a blue crank pulley. So Joe was nice enough to go sandblast it for us. And most importantly, it's not gonna fly off at 7,500 RPM. All the talk about how the stock crank pulleys can come off. Apparently mine is the only one that doesn't want to come off.
Red Loctite in there.
Yeah, that'll do it, huh?
Oh yeah.
I know it's for safety and all, but like the 16-year-old ex-Honda builder in me really likes the fact that I have an underdrive pulley on here now. Now, we didn't come to just pick up the engine today. We actually have a lot going on. We're having a couple parts modified. We're even leaving a couple parts here because we worked out a little bit of a trade deal. One thing we're gonna have the guys here do is mount the existing transmission to the engine. We're also gonna do the GT2 slave cylinder conversion, so they're gonna modify the trans for that. By the time we leave here today, this is gonna be one massive assembly on the pallet, pretty much ready to go back in the car. And now you might be wondering what this big dumb transmission is next to it. Well, this is a 991 turbo transmission. Most of you probably already know that semi-recently we got a destroyed 991 turbo into the shop. Turns out they go through a ton of these transmissions here. They build them all the time. They need a course, so I was able to work a deal with them to get them a transmission they need and of course knock a couple bucks off our total bill. Now, as for the stock turbo slave cylinder, it's a massive, big, dumb assembly. It's way overcomplicated. It attaches right here on the side of the transmission, and it's a really, really popular mod to just ditch it. It also happens that the turbo transmission is actually already provisioned for the GT2 slave cylinder. You just have to drill and tap a few holes. After that, you just add a couple studs and that'll let the GT2 slave cylinder bolt right on. Next up on the modification list was our Do 88 Y-pipe. We had yet to account for blow-off valves on this build, so we bought a couple turbo smarts from AIM. They added the proper bungs to it, and we were left with a beautiful Y-pipe ready to repowder coat and stick on the car. One of the last remaining unsettled portions of the build was the exhaust. I really didn't have a clue what I was gonna do with it. So when I came in here today and saw this titanium straight pipe beauty laying here, you know I had to ask about it, and it turns out we're leaving with it. It is only about 80% done. We still need the downpipes. They're gonna finish that up in a couple days and ship it right down to the shop. And if you're looking at this and thinking, hey, that looks pretty light.
No, 10 or 11? What's up?
No,
7?
it's not a 7. That's gonna
Might
be
be
like
like 8.
it's gonna be like 6.5 pounds.
Let's see, what do we have? 4.8 pounds. But it doesn't have the downpipes on it. What are we working with when it's fully loaded?
I'm gonna say 7-8 pounds. Looking good.
I don't hear anything.
Quiet as a mouse.
This is what we're left with, a beautiful, pretty much ready to go back in the car drivetrain. I could not be more thrilled about it. It's officially go time. Let's get this poor Porsche back on the road. Next up, a task that I am less than thrilled to be doing. Reassembling the mirrors. A bunch of small parts, freshly painted surfaces. What could possibly go wrong? This is basically the same thing as doing surgery. And being that I only dropped 6 or 7 screws, if this in fact were a routine surgery, the person may have even lived. I gotta say, guys, as much as I really wanted to have those carbon GT2 mirrors ready and done for when we were reassembling the car, I've yet to be able to source a set of 997.2 donor mirrors, and I'm kind of digging these purple ones. I'm keeping my eyes out because we definitely are going to throw them on the car at some point, but for now, I'm pretty happy with these. And now that we have that task out of the way, it's time to move on to something that I'm even less excited about. You might be able to tell, that wheel, she's not sitting real straight. Here's what you guys saw last episode. And over here on this side, well, this is what you didn't see. God, piece of shit. Motherfucking stupid car. I feel like it should go without saying, but this passenger side, it didn't go nearly as smooth as the drivers did. We were able to get it out eventually, sort of. The problem we have here is it took the steel bushing that goes in the upright with it. The tow arm, it's jacked. I'm not worried about that. What we do need to salvage, though, is that bushing, because otherwise, we're going to need ourselves a new upright, and I don't have money for it.
FMD sitting right there.
I've had the misfortune of putting heat to a lot of suspension parts. That is a first though. Learn from my mistakes. That ball joint just blew out. Truthfully guys, that could have went pretty bad. Luckily it did not. So if you're also trying to get a stuck bushing whatever off a control arm, just remember this moment. Well, if you guys can't tell, this is absolutely whooping me. Usually a lot of heat will get it done. I tried a lot of heat, followed by ice cold water for a temperature change effect. Nothing's working. I have one more idea. This thing has got beyond hot, and that leaves only one other option, and that's pressure. Did it go? Yes! 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 It was absolutely no fun whatsoever, but in the end, we got the job done, and this is what we're left with. One very, very trashed control arm, which I think we'll go ahead and hang on the wall of shame. One very heat-treated, mushroomed, and cut-off piece of ball joint, and this piece right here, which is the bushing we needed all along, which I really hope still goes back into the hub, considering how much heat it's got. Assuming it does go back into the hub, that's going to let us install these guys. 997.2 GT3 Cup rear toe arms.
911 Turbo 997.1.3/RS.
I don't
GT
follow.
Turbo.
I genuinely do not know what you're talking about.
The same thing with Porsches. I never know what you're talking about. 997.1, 99, blah, blah, blah. Just numbers? Come on, man.
There we are, good to go. It pulled right back in just how we needed it to. Now we can finally, and I do mean finally, get on with this install. There we have it, 997.2 GT3 Cup control arms, fully installed. The driver's side went perfectly, the passenger side, that did not. But a 60% ratio, I will take that 90% of the time.
I don't really want to touch the Porsche, but you make me do this.
I mean, a professional's got to do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It would be all over the quarter panel if I do it.
I don't want to touch this paint job, you know, man. It's a lot of pressure on me.
Well, don't touch the fucking paint job then, Fernando. Don't hit the paint. Keep that rolling when I break this thing.
Oh, good.
Perfect. Now, the other day I hit this side with something that I thought might work. It's polished headlights for me before. It definitely did not. So, Fernando, this is in your hands. So this is not a finish. You're not trying to restore that. You're effectively painting it.
Kinda.
We're just gonna let it sit for a little bit, dry, and see how it actually works. If we have to clean it up and go a little bit deeper, we're gonna do that, but
Yeah,
this is just a test.
sounds like a good plan. Look at all that dirt coming out, or the stuff you can see behind it. That looks amazing. Amazing. Check that out.
It doesn't look like super shiny, but at the same time, you know.
I mean, it's the lighting in here as well. I think outside under natural light, when it's not blazing down LED lights on it, that's gonna look awesome.
Way better than what it was.
That looks so good. It was pretty much disgusting before. Weathered, nasty, and just in general not that good looking. So now that we got that knocked out, now that we've installed those rear toe arms as well, it's time to bust out some brand new control arms for the front of the car. And lucky for us, that's not all we have up here. The only thing you need to pull off, period, to make room for this lower control arm we're about to install is this forward-facing arm. It's the arm that your brake cooler, duct, air baffle, whatever you want to call it, attaches to. Hopefully, if you have one of these, it's not broken like mine. And of course, as is standard on this car, we found the bent control arm. It's pretty obvious even to the naked eye that the passenger side here is up and swayed pretty good to the left side. Imagine that. We need to order more parts for this piece of junk. And here's our not so beautiful set of stock front lower control arms. They're pretty ratty. You can see they've been scraped up a little before. And given the suspension damage we've seen on the rest of this car, I wouldn't even be positive that they're straight. But most importantly, they're not adjustable. Fortunately for us, we have the perfect solution to that that's gonna give us a ton more camber adjustability. While we could sit here all night and talk about how awesome these GT3 style front control arms by Renline look, I think that's pretty obvious already. So let's talk about what they can do for us when paired with these spacers right here. As we sit right now, these two control arms are exactly the same length, but this one does that. It's a really simple design. It's the same thing all the GT cars run. And if you can't see where this is going already, there's a very good reason for that. We're going to be able to take this fine assortment of shims we have here and on demand be able to change our camber settings from the bottom of the car. We ordered every spacer Renline has. 1mm, 4mm, 10mm. It's super simple. The bigger the spacer we put in here, the longer this arm's going to be. What that's going to do is kick the bottom of this hub out, therefore the bottom of the wheel out, and most importantly for our tire fitment dilemma, the top part of the wheel is going that way. Until we get this thing done and actually on an alignment rack, we're going to shoot dead in the center at 5mm. That's the 1 and the 4. One thing that I did inadvertently overlook that Renline also makes, and I just went and ordered, is this guy right here, the stock suspension ride height bracket. These stock control arms are super thin. There's just a hole drilled in the center. It mounts with a push pin. It's a plastic bracket, easy. As you can tell, these guys here are much beefier. There's no pre-drilled hole. In fact, where that needs to be... In fact, where that needs to be, there's not even a provision for it. How Renline remedied that is there's another bracket that's very, very thin, just like this, and it has a welded piece that comes off the side that's going to allow us to attach that ride height sensor. We're going to go ahead and stick these 10mm spacers back in here for later down the road in case you want that super hot boy stance. We do have one more spacer we have to account for here. These guys are based off 996 GT3 control arms. On the stock arm right here, where the thrust arm mounts, it's really, really thick. Not so much over here on our new arm, so we have to take these guys here, put one on the top, one on the bottom, and then we're going to be good to go. Well, technically we won't be good to go until we get these aftermarket thrust arms in, but you know, you understand what I was trying to say. Well, that took all 2 minutes to install. Super, super easy adjustment while it's in the car. We have a grease fitting on our actual ball joint now. Super nice part, awesome price, easy to install. Can't really ask for anything more. Now that we got that locked up, we can get rid of one other thing that I've hated since day one on this car. It's these guys right here, these stupid fucking wheel bolts. Thankfully, the time has come to get rid of those junkers and stick these guys in. A wheel stud set from Apex Race Parts, you know, the same company we got those awesome wheels from. But before we can actually thread those in, we get to do one of my most satisfying things on a car, chase these threads. For me, there's just something about tapping an old dirty hole, getting it cleaned up and ready to go for a new stud, just no better feeling. Now, I'm not normally a torque wrench kind of guy, but the last thing we want is for one of these guys to not be a nice, properly tight fit and have an accident down the road, so just for today, I figured we'd use a little protection. Now, as much fun as that was, we're not done tapping the holes yet. These guys right here, the brake caliper bolts. Threading stuff over and over into an aluminum housing, no bueno in my opinion. So yet again, we're swapping out a factory set of bolts for a set of nice new studs. In this case, a set made by Tarrant Engineering. These guys are the exact same things you're going to find on the Cup cars, and it's going to let us pull those brake calipers on and off as many times as we want without risk of damaging those uprights. In the interest of full disclosure, I've been known to cross a thread or two, so this is a mod I couldn't resist. Let's just call it insurance. These guys here are definitely a tighter hole than the wheel bolts were. M14 by 1.5, M12 by 1.5 to be exact. Look at all that junk coming out of there. That's exactly why I'm thrilled to be doing this. I have no idea how many times those calipers have been off there, but anytime you're repeatedly bolting something into an aluminum housing, it's a recipe for disaster. On this one, we're not using a torque wrench, we're just going for it. I believe there's a term for this, though it's not coming to me off the top of my head. Yet again, another really easy install, and I think in the end we're left with a much more serviceable car. Anything that we need to take off for wear items at the track, whether it be the wheel, whether it be the brake caliper, we can now do so without fear of screwing something up. We're going to save these caliper bolts as spares, but as for these guys here. Now, as far as the suspension on this car goes, that's pretty much it. I think this is how we're going to leave it until it's time to, and yes, this is a Dodge Demon starter, don't ask why. I think that's pretty much how we're going to leave it until the car's on the road / on the track / at alignment. The only caveat there is if we find something else damaged. which as you guys know by now, I would not rule out. Though we have the suspension wrapped up, those of you guys with a very keen eye might notice that we're still missing a little something right around this general area. Some of you guys may also remember that way back when we sent the brake calipers out to be powder coated. Good news, they're back. Bad news, we have to reassemble them, and that is so far down on my list of fun car things to do. And while I'm not thrilled about actually having to take the time to rebuild these calipers, one thing I am psyched about, the color. I know it's kind of odd for brake calipers. And that is a big if, I can actually keep these guys clean, I think they're going to look awesome with the white roll cage, which you cannot see at the current moment. When we took these brakes apart many months ago, it was a bunch of old, just rusty, dirty junk. Not much life left on them. All this stuff needed to be thrown in the trash anyway. What better time than now to switch to a bunch of nice new brake parts? Go Ridge lines, Hawk pads. We did have to mix and match our seals because gyro discs didn't have them all. Lucky for us, we were able to find a Stop Tech set that worked. It was pretty much the same deal with the pistons. You see we have 8 new pistons here. We only needed 1. If you look really closely right there, this one single piston had a little bit of damage. Possibly from use, possibly because the person who disassembled them got a little lazy, didn't know what they were doing. I'm not going to speculate on which. My original plan was, of course, to replace this one factory Brembo piston, but I was only able to find one of them in Europe for like $100. After quite some time searching and consulting people that know a lot better than I do, we were able to source a set from Stop Tech. It's a 34mm brake piston, 32mm, I believe, height from Stop Tech for their trophy calipers. Unlike the incredibly hard to find Brembo one, we were able to get these for like $20 a pop in the US, delivered next day. And now that I've given you my little bit of caliper piston insider information, I suppose it's about time to get these things assembled, get them back on the car, and then I'll share with you my about to be not so top secret lifetime brake rotor hack. After a pretty miserable time doing the rears and a slightly less miserable time doing the fronts, we have our new pistons installed. We're pretty much good to go, and now we get to slap these new pads in, which, if I have to say, are a much nicer setup than the stock ones. They have these weird aluminum things hanging off that pressed into those stock cylinders. Not going to work on these ones. Supposedly, they're just for sound dampening. And one thing we're not doing on this build is dampening sound. They did pretty much the same thing on the fronts also. They have ceramic tops to the pistons. From the factory, they have these weird little press-in inserts that act as sound dampeners as well. You have to wonder, did Porsche's engineers ever believe their design will be improved on by some idiot that owns a junkyard? Now we've spent entirely too much time looking at just brake calipers today. Needless to say, I'm excited to get back on the car, and I'm even more excited to bust open these guys. When I went to order brake parts from this car, when I got to rotors, I was kind of lost. There's tons of really expensive options out there, 2-piece rotors, which are expensive for good reason. I didn't want to make that investment considering I may upgrade to carbon ceramics later down the road. After a lot, and I do mean a lot of searching, we settled on these guys right here. Sebro 355mm slotted rotors.
That's not right.
Sebro 350mm rotors. And as sick as these rotors look, that's not even the best part. When I was searching for my perfect rotor, I happened across these on FCPEuro.com, and one little thing on their site caught my eye. Yep, that little guy right there. It also happens to be on the sheet that came in the box that I promptly crumbled up by accident. A lifetime replacement guarantee on a wear item like this, on a car like this. Frankly, it almost sounded too good to be true, but I talked to him, and it's not. We end up sticking a super aggressive pad on it at some point, taking it to the track and destroying these rotors in a single session. They get replaced. We take her to a half-mile event and spend all day going 0 to 200, back to 0 very quickly. We screw these things up a little bit, they get replaced. We get old girl finished up and love it so much that we decide to put 60,000 miles on it next year. We burned through a set of rotors. You know the drill. You know where this is going by now. Point being that unless we decide we really need to upgrade somewhere down the road, this is the last set of rotors we're ever going to have to buy for the car. Not only that, but they carry a ton of OEM Porsche parts, BMW parts, all the typical Euro stuff, you know, hence their name. So next time I need OEM parts, I'm definitely going to give FCP Euro a look. It's the same pricing as the dealership, except the parts have a lifetime replacement guarantee. There are so few parts, especially for a 1,000 horsepower car, that have a lifetime replacement guarantee, especially when it's a wear part, that I couldn't pass it up. And well, if you know how we treat cars around here, we're definitely going to put it to the test. Woo. Guys, it took so much longer than I thought it was gonna, but we're done, sort of. Before we get into what went wrong, let's take 1 second and appreciate these guys. It was so nice to finally put wheels on a Porsche and not have it be some massive ordeal. Now, as for what held us up, you might notice if you look inside this front caliper, it's missing a piston, it's missing a seal. In fact, it's missing a pair of them. Unfortunately, we got shorted 2 of our 428mm dust boots and gaskets. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal at all because that's not the only part we have to order. These guys here, these are for the rear brake calipers. One end threads into that hole you can see right there on the back of the caliper. It uses around just a little bit and then it goes to a rubber soft line, or in our case, one of these guys. One side completely trashed. This one we were able to get like a quarter turn on, but even with heat, it just did not want to come loose. So unfortunately, we had to order 2 of these guys from Porsche. Damaged parts, missing parts, out of stock parts, story of this build, I suppose, why would it change now? Every one of those parts should be in hand within the week, which is exactly how long it's going to take us to get our front wheels back. Tomorrow morning, we have an appointment to drop our wheels off at the machine shop. They're going to take just a little bit of material off the inside surface where it mates to the hub. It's pretty much the last resort. We already put these awesome Redline control arms on the car. If that doesn't do it, well, we're pretty much screwed and we're going to have to change tires. As most of you guys already know, I would prefer not to do that. So we got to put this thing down on the ground. We're going to have to make this thing as close to full weight as possible to get a real true ride height on it and see how much we can actually take off. We need to find some weight to stick in this front. We don't have a lot of space to work with there. It's super common in the racing world to put lead or something like that. We need something small. We need something dense. We don't have any lead. You know what? Can I get a hand with something real quick? Oh, perfect. Yeah, adult's in the car now. All right. We're loaded up. Right here, 6.5mm is what we have. And what we're measuring is right there, the upper collar of the coilover to the inside barrel of the wheel. I said I wanted to get 5mm off. As it stands with our clearance there, I don't think we're quite gonna get that. At minimum, I want at least 2mm of clearance. So that gives us 4.5, not bad. But guys, enough technical talk for today. I've been waiting for this for a while. I'm sure some of you guys have as well. Let's get this thing outside and finally see what this paint looks like. Well, guys, sorry in advance for the wind noise. By the time we got this thing down, we got it measured, we got it pushed outside, it's got somewhat cloudy and unfortunately very windy. With the sun being so low in the sky, the car still just really looks black. I honestly cannot wait to see this car in the dead of summer when the sun's, you know, right up there and not way over there somewhere. It's been so long coming at this point. 8 months we've been in this series, guys. At this point, there's absolutely zero preventing us from getting this thing completely done, wrapped up, making a ton of power just in time for the race season here in the Northeast. I have not been nearly this excited, not even close, for a summer to come in a very long time. We have that car behind us. We have the ZR1 there that's gonna be back on the road and actually probably faster than that one. We got that not so bad boy right there. We of course have the Demon, which is gonna be its own wild ride. We do have the RX-7 up there, which is gonna be done a summer. Not this summer, maybe 2025. We have the Viper Engine 240. We have the 3000 GT VR4. We even have this piece of shit. Of course, we still have an R8 cart. Point being, we're gonna have like a rack of 10 cars we can take around to events, have fun, and just generally beat the piss out of this summer. I'm planning on doing a bunch of traveling this year, so I hope to meet up with a bunch of you guys, see some of you guys at events, and most importantly, see you guys back here very shortly to install that engine.
The only state that I've been to that's shittier than New
Alabama.
Jersey is Alabama.
Yeah, I knew it.
What about PA?
That is the only state.
Pennsylvania sucks too.
What did Baltimore say?
Top 2 at least.
Like
Top
that.
2.
Baltimore represent.
Yes.
It doesn't look good.
Yeah, you think? What about this says good time to you?
It's a Porsche.
Get out of here, just go. Not sure you got that f***ing piece of shit leaking or what? F***ing flash, go. In my in frame, probably not. Then you just wipe it off, or?
No, it's basically
It's fine, Fernando, it's fine. It wasn't a step, it was a slide. Stick these big boy 10mm spacers back in here for the wrong drawer. We're gonna save these junked up wheel bolts as spares just in case we need them down the road. But as for these junked up wheel bolts, how we're gonna leave it, I can't really see us. Oops. See, just looking out for air. What is f***ing going on here?